real backup.
Oh yeah, it's still like people still ride for Eazy, like you know what I'm saying.
Cut your head off, leave it on the porch type backup.
You hook up with Eazy-E, cause I mean, you on Ruthless Records now.
Yeah, we plugged up with the homie 3 years ago. He heard our music through some other people, and he met us. He found out we real mother from the streets, you know. So he wanted to
real. These guys ain't rappers. These guys are
real gangsters walk the streets of Compton. This city birthed gangster rap, but it also carried a dark shadow that never let go. That's where Eazy-E steps in. He wasn't just dropping groundbreaking music, he was a marked man. And the ones after him weren't only rival rappers or shady record execs. Some were even worse, hiding behind white hoods and flashing swastikas. But when the heat turned deadly, Eazy's shield came from the most unexpected place, the Mexican gangs. Word on the block was, these dudes had his back stronger than anybody else, riding for him no matter what. Let's dive in.
They wanted to start a race.
But who wanted to? The skinheads?
Yeah, that I was one person that people probably would care about if something was to happen.
So just weeks before his death, Eazy-E dropped a bombshell. In one of his final interviews, he revealed that the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazi skinheads had put a price on his head. This wasn't some wild rumor. These were Eazy's own words. He even said those same groups had a bounty on Rodney King too, and it wasn't just about him or Rodney. Their bigger plan? To spark a full-blown race war in America. What makes that confession sting even harder is what Zai pointed out right after. He said the FBI never gave Eazy a warning. Meanwhile, those same agents went public bragging about how they warned Rodney King about the threats on his life.
When this little situation happened a while back with these Klan people, and they had to hit on you and skinheads, and they had to hit on you and Rodney King and all that.
They wanted to start a race.
But when it came to Eazy, silence. And when they asked Eazy why he thought that was, he said maybe they just didn't care enough to warn him. Or worse, maybe they actually wanted those groups to take him out. That right there shows this wasn't just rap drama or some random hate. It was bigger than music. This was organized hate tied to real groups with names, faces, and violent missions. Back in the early 90s, law enforcement already had eyes on one of the main players behind it all, a 20-year-old out of Long Beach named Christopher David Fisher. He was accused of rolling with the Fourth Reich skinheads, and the things prosecutors said he was planning were flat out insane. Their mission was crystal clear: ignite a race war, the blueprint for chaos, blow up the first AME church, assassinate Rodney King, trigger a wave of violence meant to rip the city apart. Fisher was so dangerous that when his case hit the courtroom, the judge refused to even grant him bail. Even when his parents begged the court and promised 24-hour supervision, the judge wasn't having it. But here's the wild part. This dude was barely out of his teens, sitting in court crying, while at the same time being accused of some of the most hateful, violent plans you could imagine.
Did the FBI ever warn you, or did they just warn like the first AME church and Rodney King?
The FBI didn't.
And this wasn't just talk, it was action. Prosecutors said he bragged about tossing a Molotov cocktail at a synagogue in Westminster. The only reason it didn't go up in flames was because of the rain, but the scene after was sickening. Swastikas sprayed on the walls, and the words "Die Jew Pigs" scrawled across it. He was also accused of pipe bombing the home and car of an Asian high school student in Lakewood. And he didn't stop there. He even tried to take credit for other bombings, one against a member of the Spur Posse and another against a black man. But here's where it ties straight back to Eazy-E. Federal agents admitted that rap singer Eazy-E was on their assassination list. And right next to him, Reverend Cecil Murray from the First AME Church, and Danny Bakewell from the Brotherhood Crusade. And Rodney King wasn't the only one. Eazy wasn't being paranoid at all. His name was literally listed in a federal investigation as a target for murder. The level of detail in these plots was straight up chilling.
Had anything maybe to do with like a personal vendetta or anything?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted them to get me.
One skinhead even described how Reverend Murray would be shot in the middle of a sermon, right as he said the words, "Justice will be done." They planned to open fire on the whole congregation. If they thought out a hit like that down to the last detail, then you already know they had a plan for Eazy too. The feds finally caught wind of the Fourth Reich skinheads through an undercover investigation that lasted 18 months. These guys were buying weapons, trading bombs, and plotting attacks like it was nothing. At one point, undercover agents actually bought 4 pipe bombs directly from Fisher, and when they raided his stash, they found rifles, bayonets, and even a Molotov cocktail ready to go. These dudes weren't fronting. They had the tools, the hate, and a hit list ready to roll. What's wild is, until Fisher and his crew got busted, almost nobody even knew they existed. Even the Anti-Defamation League, which tracks hate groups, hadn't picked them up in their reports. They seemed to pop up from nowhere, but Fisher claimed they had over 50 members. Even if that was talk, undercover agents met at least 18 young recruits who swore they were down with it.
Technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
Easy.
Their reach stretched coast to coast. Flyers turned up all the way in New Jersey. That proved this wasn't just a local clique of skinheads. This was a spreading movement, plain and simple, and Rabbi Abraham Cooper from the Simon Wiesenthal Center said it best. You don't need thousands to do damage. He was right. Fisher and his crew weren't massive in numbers, but they had enough weapons and enough hate to make serious damage happen. Now picture this, finding out through a federal investigation that your name is on a kill list made by white supremacists. That's a whole different kind of weight to carry. And while Eazy was no stranger to rap beef or street drama, this was something way bigger, organized hate on a national scale. But here's where the twist comes in. Even though Eazy was marked, he wasn't standing alone. Compton had his back. And it wasn't just the South Side Crips that everybody knew he was linked to. The ones who rode the hardest for him were the Mexican gangs.
Eazy-E too. N.W.A riders, the brown side guys, and, rest in heaven Toker. Eazy had real backup.
Oh yeah, it's still like people still ride for Eazy. Like you know what I'm saying?
Cut your head off, leave it on the porch type.
They respected Eazy so much that people said they were more loyal to him than anybody else. Eazy himself even admitted, straight up, if the skinheads ever came for him, the Mexicans would have brought war to the streets of Compton. That's how unshakable that bond was. Eazy-E's ties to the Mexican community ran way deeper than most people ever knew. Long before he was signing legendary Chicano rap groups or teaming up with Latino artists, he already had real connections in the streets. One of his earliest and closest friends was Damon Trujillo, better known as Crazy D, a Mexican-American who rolled with Eazy during the very first wave of N.W.A. Take a close look at the cover of N.W.A and the Posse, their very first album, and you'll spot something that puzzled fans for years. The whole image of N.W.A was Neros with attitudes, so when people saw a Mexican dude front and center in the lineup, it threw them off. A lot assumed it had to be Photoshop or some random guy sneaking into the shot, but nah, it was real. That was Crazy D, standing bold and proud, part of the crew. And he wasn't just there as a background face either. Back then, he was actually more involved than some of the guys who would later become staples of the group. For example, MC Ren, who went on to be a cornerstone of N.W.A, was only in that first photo because he happened to be chilling with the homies that day.
You remember when the KKK had that hit on me? And he said, I bet if something had happened to me, the Mexicans would have been down, And he said, if something happened to me, he goes, I think there would have been a...
Crazy D, on the other hand, was actually putting in work on the music. He's even credited on N.W.A.'s very first single ever, Panic Zone. That's solid proof that Eazy's bond with the Mexican community was real from the very start. But as time went on, Eazy didn't just hold on to those ties. He doubled down. Years later, he made history by signing Brownside, a Chicano rap group led by the late Toker, along with another trailblazing Mexican rapper, Kid Frost. This was during an era when the industry wasn't really checking for Latino rap at all. Labels weren't investing, radio stations weren't playing it, and the mainstream wasn't taking it seriously. But Eazy saw the wave coming before anyone else. He understood that Chicano rap was about to turn into a movement, and he wanted to be the one laying down the foundation. And the way Eazy linked with Brownside was as natural as it gets. According to Toker, a mutual acquaintance slid Eazy their music, and the connection was instant. Once Eazy heard their music, he was locked in. They linked up, met face to face, and the bond clicked instantly.
Signed the Brownside, and then he ended up signing Kid Frost, and had that mind state about it because he knew that that was coming. Like I said, the guy was ahead of his.
Under Eazy's guidance, Brownside helped pioneer Chicano rap, shaping the sound, the image, and the whole vibe of the culture. But don't get it twisted. Brownside wasn't just another rap group chasing trends. These dudes were real street figures with serious weight behind their names. People who were around back then said just being in the same room with Brownside could make you nervous. Their energy was heavy, and nobody dared test them. And that's exactly what drew Eazy to them. He admired how the Latino gangs moved, with loyalty, family first, and that ride or die mentality. With them, your homies were your blood, no questions asked. If it came down to it, they'd go to war for you without hesitation. And that energy matched Eazy's spirit perfectly. He kept Brownside close because he knew in his world, things went left all the time. And if they did, these were the guys who'd step up without hesitation.
Hook up with Eazy-E, cause I mean, you're on Ruthless Records now.
Yeah, we plugged up with the homie 3 years ago. He heard our music through some other people. He liked what he heard. He met us. He found out we real from the streets, you know. So he wanted to.
One of the most legendary stories about their loyalty came during the height of the Ruthless Records versus Death Row beef. Back then, Suge Knight was feared everywhere. His intimidation tactics were unmatched, and Death Row had the muscle to back it up. But when it came to Eazy, things weren't so simple. Toker once explained how Brownside played a major role in protecting him during that heated era. According to Toker, one day, he and the crew just happened to pull up at Ruthless Records, right when tensions with Death Row were at their peak. He described it as fate, like they were meant to be there. Suga's camp thought Eazy was isolated, easy to pressure, easy to break. But the second they saw Brownside standing with him, that whole idea collapsed quick. Brownside told Eazy straight up, "We're here, and we're ready to back you up no matter what." Toker even said they told Eazy straight up, "If there's anybody you want gone, just say the word." That's how far their loyalty stretched. But Eazy, being who he was, tried to play it cool, brushing it off like, "Nah, it's not like that, man." Toker wasn't buying it, though. He looked Eazy in the eye and said, "Nah, it's exactly like that."
They were on Ruthless, man, yeah. Another dude that he was a joke. Toker was one of the few cats that I just was nervous.
He's raw as hell, basically.
He just one of them dudes. He's cool. He was super cool.
Yeah.
He's super cool. But you can tell it's a gun somewhere. It's strapped somewhere around here.
Real. These guys ain't rappers. These guys are real gangsters. Because I worked with other gangster rappers.
From that moment on, their bond only got stronger. Eazy realized he wasn't just moving with friends. He had a full-blown army behind him. Everywhere he went, business meetings, restaurants, industry events, he rolled deep with Brownside and the Mexican homies. And they weren't just for show or intimidation either. These dudes were serious. They wanted the smoke. They were hoping to run into Death Row's crew just to prove their loyalty in action. And eventually, they got their shot. Toker told the story of one time when Eazy was just chilling at the Cheesecake Factory, trying to enjoy a regular day. Out of nowhere, about 7 or 8 dudes claiming Death Row pulled up and surrounded him, trying to corner him with intimidation. What they didn't realize was, Eazy was never really alone. In an instant, the whole vibe flipped. Mexican gang members flooded the restaurant, and Toker said it felt like standing in the middle of a packed soccer stadium. But every single face was Latino, and every single one was riding for Eazy. The Death Row affiliates figured out real quick they were outnumbered and outgunned. Whatever tough guy move they thought they had just blew up in their faces. They scrambled to their cars and peeled out like their lives depended on it. And to make sure the message hit home, Toker told them straight as they fled, "If you want to come back, you're more than welcome."
Ruthless, when the Death Row Ruthless beef was cracking. So they thought they were gonna overpower my boy because my boy was by himself. But you know, Destiny took Toker and the brown side clique to Jerusalem.
We'll be right here waiting. Moments like that expose the real truth about Eazy's reputation. Take the famous slap story, the one dramatized in Straight Outta Compton, where Suge supposedly roughed Eazy up into signing over Dre's contract. That whole tale starts to crumble when you hear from people who were actually there. Guys like BG Knockout and Keef D both said the same thing. Suge never laid a hand on Eazy. Because if he did, he wouldn't just be declaring war on the Southside Crips, he'd also be taking on the Mexican gangs who had Eazy's back. And that was a risk Suga was not willing to take. Even the so-called story about Suga threatening Eazy with his mom's address doesn't hold up. People close to him believe it was blown out of proportion, if it even happened at all. With that level of protection, Eazy was never the helpless victim some try to paint him as. And maybe the strongest proof of how deep that loyalty ran came at the very end of his life.
We rolling with you, fool. We got your back. What's cracking with this death row ruthless? Who you want gone?
When Eazy's health started failing, and he was at his weakest and most vulnerable, he didn't call on industry friends. He didn't call on business partners. He called on Brownside. It was Toker and his crew he trusted enough to take him to the hospital. That's how real that bond was. And it didn't stop when Eazy passed. Even after his death, the Mexican community kept showing love and loyalty. They looked after his son, Lil Eazy-E, making sure he knew he still had people riding for him. With all those connections and the respect he built in the streets, Eazy-E managed to survive some of the deadliest years in West Coast rap. He dodged white supremacists who literally had his name on a kill list. He stood strong in the face of Suge Knight and the Death Row Machine. He walked through Compton with a level of protection most rappers could only dream of. But then came an enemy that no street alliance, no gang, no muscle could ever save him from. And the way it hit was sudden, so brutal that it shook the entire hip-hop world to its core. Even decades later, people are still left with questions.
Everywhere he went, he called his Mexicans. He called his brown brothers. Where you at? What's cracking? Swoop up over here. Come in the Lolos. He be in Beverly Hills at an expensive restaurant. 20 Mexicans drive up. Hoping we ran into somebody from that road. Hoping. Because we wanted to make a statement. But luckily, never.
On March 17th, 1995, Eazy-E made a public announcement that nobody was ready for. From his hospital bed at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, he revealed to the world that he had AIDS. The shocking part? He had only found out himself 2 weeks earlier. By the time he made that statement, he was already in critical condition, hooked up to machines, fighting for his life. And then, less than a month later, on March 26, 1995, Eazy-E was gone. Just 31 years old, at the peak of his solo career, a rap legend cut down in his prime.
Like 7, 8 motherfuckers that claimed death row, waiting for their cars to pull up because they were leaving the Cheesecake Factory. Right when my boy E walked past them, they all surrounded him. What's up? And they were...
The official cause of death was listed as pneumonia, brought on by complications from AIDS. But here's where it gets messy. The speed of his decline was so extreme, it instantly raised eyebrows. People close to him couldn't process how Eazy went from full of energy and looking healthy 1 minute to suddenly fighting for his life the next. Take Bone Thugs and Harmony, for example. They had just signed to Ruthless Records and were spending a lot of time with him in his final months. They said straight up that Eazy looked normal. He still had his weight. He was still cocky. That didn't sound like a man about to die. His personal assistant, Cheris Henry, backed that up too. She admitted he wasn't eating as much, sure, but she said he had no lesions, no dementia, none of the classic signs of advanced AIDS people expected to see. That's when the seeds of doubt started to spread. And then came the chilling curveball, out of nowhere.
Toker described it as feeling like they were standing in the middle of a packed soccer field.
In 2003, Suge Knight went on Jimmy Kimmel Live and dropped a comment that still sends chills down spines today. Said in this half-joking, half-menacing tone, Suge said, "They got this stuff now. They get blood from somebody with AIDS and shoot you with it. That's a slow death. The Eazy-E thing, it might have sounded like a joke on TV, but for people who lived through that era, it was anything but funny. To many, it sounded like Suga had just admitted to something sinister. Even Ice Cube later said he wouldn't put it past someone to actually do something like that.
Them 7 looked around like, we're surrounded. They thought they were at a Mexican soccer field surrounded by Mexican soccer players, but it was us. I said, what's up, man? You got beef with my brother Eazy? They were like, oh, damn. You got beef with my little brother Eazy? You got beef with me, And then my little homie started coming out with the heat. They were like, no.
And Eazy's own family and friends, they've openly said they believe he was murdered. But here's where the plot thickens even more. In 2011, an unsealed FBI document dropped that added a whole new layer of suspicion. It revealed that both Eazy-E and Tupac had been linked to an alleged extortion scheme by the Jewish Defense League, also known as the JDL.
We already talked. The homies gonna line up, and they're gonna grab you, and we just gonna lay on the floor. You know, and then whenever it go up, we just gonna.
And if you don't know, the JDL wasn't just some community group. The Southern Poverty Law Center described them as being behind countless terrorist attacks in the U.S. and abroad. According to that FBI document, Jerry Heller, Eazy-E's own manager, had brought in the JDL to help handle threats coming from Suge Knight and the neo-Nazi skinheads. But the way they operated was straight mob style. The JDL would allegedly make threatening calls to rappers, straight-up death threats, then swoop in and offer protection for a price.
It was not true to the story.
Okay.
Here's why it was not true to the story. That last 2 years of his life, Eazy-E was smoking hot. Even though he was sick, he was happy as hell. He had Bone Thugs and Harmony.
And here's the real kicker. The FBI file specifically says Eazy was a victim of this extortion scheme before he died from AIDS. Just think about that for a second. Eazy was already a target of white supremacists. And on top of that, he was tangled in a situation where a militant group was allegedly threatening him and extorting him for protection money, all while being brought into the picture by his own manager. Now add in the suspicions from his closest people, the belief that his death came way too fast to be natural, and suddenly the picture gets even darker. The FBI files don't flat out say white supremacists killed Eazy.
No, he got poked, then the conspiracy lives on.
Would you put it past?
I'll push it past.
They don't point fingers directly at Suge, the JDL, or anyone else, but what they do show is that Eazy was trapped in a dangerous web of enemies, threats, and shady allies in the months leading up to his death. So if Eazy was already being hunted by skinheads, allegedly extorted by the JDL, and beefing openly with Suge Knight, could one of those forces, or even the protection that was supposed to guard him, have played a role in how fast his health collapsed? The truth is, no charges were ever filed, and no investigation ever gave a real answer. And that's why, decades later, the mystery of how Eazy-E really died is still wide open. What do you think? Was it fate, or was something darker at play? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into hip-hop's most shocking stories.